Welcome back to another episode of the Draw Control podcast. On today's episode, I am joined by freshman on the Boston University women's lacrosse team, Reilly Walsh. This season, Reilly has been one of the top freshmen in the Patriot League with 5 goals, 3 assists, 4 ground balls, and 5 caused turnovers already. Before college, Reilly was a member of the Division II lacrosse state champion team in her senior and junior seasons. She captained her squad her senior year, was a 2022 Lacrosse All-Scholastic recipient, played varsity lacrosse all 4 years. Reilly also played varsity field hockey and ran indoor track all 4 years, serving as captain for both her senior year on those teams. I'm really excited to have her on the podcast today. So, welcome to the Draw Control podcast, Reilly. And how is everything going?
Hey, thank you for having me. Everything's going great.
Well, obviously, your team is doing pretty well. You guys are currently undefeated with a game against Stonehill tomorrow at the time of this recording, and then obviously a big game against BC next week. So, how has the season been going from your perspective, and what's your perspective on the team's performance so far this season?
Yeah, from my perspective, I think we've been showing up and we've been showing teams what we can do. And I think we've had a great job. We've done a great job finishing and just putting it all out there when we step on the field. I think we've been utilizing our time outside of practice and within practice to really hone in on details, which is a huge part of the game. Just you can you can hone in on anything you'd like as long as you work hard enough at it, then you're going to get your best opportunities when you put it out on the field. And I think we've done a great job doing that. In our last couple of games, we've seized opportunities to just show everything that we have to these teams and taking it game by game. I think a huge part of that is not underestimating a team or underestimating ourselves, but also just calling it an equal playing field and really taking the opportunity to show every team what we can do.
Now, talking to some of your other teammates on this podcast this past fall, they were saying you guys were dealing with some injuries during fall ball and that sort of sporadically throughout the season, players would be coming back. So I'm just curious how you guys been dealing with the adversity of missing some of your players and what's that been like sort of dealing with that and getting some players back as the season progresses.
Yeah, I think it definitely took a hit on us in the fall when we were missing, I don't even know how many it was, 5 or 6 girls. So our numbers were super small, which honestly, it gave us an opportunity to just be out on the field and upped our conditioning. If we're out there and we don't have that many subs, we just got all the much better to go out there and work as hard as we can for however long the games were. I think having a couple girls back now is really great. They've been doing a great job understanding and learning our plays, focusing in on their defensive skills, and really just catching up. They've done a great job integrating back into our team. Not that they were off, but they have been on the off season. They've been focusing on everything. They've been in film, just taking notes and everything like that. So I think that we're so grateful to have them back and to utilize them now that we've got more numbers, which should set us up for so much more success. And it also worked in our benefit in the fall by getting people that can play as much opportunity as they can to improve their skills.
Now, as a freshman, what's been like the biggest adjustment you've had to make to college lacrosse?
I would probably say the pace of the game as well as the girls I'm playing against. I'm not the biggest girl that's on the field. So I think learning to adapt to that and just being able to take hits and really use my size to my advantage because, yeah, you're not going to win every ball, but I think I've got good speed and I've got the ability to dodge around these bigger girls because it's just all about using what you've got to your advantage and what they don't have and what I have, I can use, and what they do have and I don't have, I can use against them. So I think just the pace of the game, speeding things up is really something that takes a minute to adapt to. But once you get there, it's not as bad as it seems. So I think just using your ability to adapt has been something that I've had to do a lot.
Yeah, and this might have answered my next question, but what's been the biggest improvement you've made so far this season with BU? I know it's been only 3 games, but is it that adaptation being more, I guess, different, figuring out different ways as an attacker to score, sort of using your shiftiness and trying to use the speed to your advantage in that sort of way?
Yeah, I think that. And I also think I would say my biggest improvement has just been my confidence. I mean, I've always been a fairly confident player, but I got out there on my first game and I really wasn't expecting to start or anything. And my coach came up to me and she was like, before the game even started, she was like, "You're starting for a reason, act like it." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then it's just the first 30 seconds of that game. I was like, if I'm out here, whether I feel confident or not, I have to pretend like I am because nothing's going to happen if I don't feel that way. So I think from that first game, I've just taken confidence as something that I really need to dial in on. And whether I feel it or not, it's fake it till you make it. And I think that that's been something that's been such an improvement for me because I'm a big believer that if you're confident, you're going to play 10 times better. And that's something that works for everybody because it just makes you take opportunities as much as you can and really show what you can when you're up there. And I think that that's something that I've had to prove on that I have improved mostly on. And it shows on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively.
Now, what's the biggest thing you think you need to work on the most as you guys head into conference play coming up?
I would probably say the thing I need to work on the most is my composure. I know that personally, I get a little frustrated if things aren't going my way or just a little shaken up. And I think that if when I do that, I act out of my emotions. And that's something that I can definitely improve on. And I do need to improve on because I need to change my mindset. And I'm not playing for myself, I'm playing for my team. So if I screw something up and then I go and check a girl near her head and I get a yellow card, I didn't do that for my team. I did that for myself just to act out of anger. So something I need to improve on is my composure so that I can set my teammates up for success and set us up for a win all around.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, I feel like they're being a little more stricter with those yellow cards. So you got to be even more careful, even when you're not trying
Oh
to be.
yeah.
Now, what are your team's goals and expectations for the rest of the season?
Yeah, like I said before, I think our expectation is to go into each game with a level head and call it 0-0. Our big thing is every quarter, the score is not what it is, it's 0-0. And they have the opportunity to get back up to whatever it is, or we have the opportunity to get back up to wherever they are. So I think our expectation is to just remain composed and humble and also hold ourselves to these high expectations. And I think our goal is to play like a team that belongs in the Patriot League Championship. So in order to do that, we just have to remain consistent in our progress and work as hard as we can on and off the field, whether it's lift or extra wall ball on the weekends or the weekdays, or just extra individual hours with our coaches. I think really just holding our expectations above where they were before and just working our way to our goal of being in that Patriot League championship.
Yeah, and obviously the Patriot League this season has been super fun to watch. Obviously, you have teams like yourself, Loyola, and Navy playing really well so far. And I know Army's been struggling, but I feel like they're going to figure it out at some point. So it must be nice to sort of be in a competitive conference where you guys have to continue to up your game for each game that you play, even those non-conference ones, because you need to be put yourself in the best position for the playoffs when that time comes.
I agree. I think every game is just another opportunity to practice. I think that if you mess up in a practice, you can practice and practice and practice and over again. When you mess up in a game, that's your sign to just go to the next game and not do it again. And I think that each team definitely gives us a challenge. And we're so grateful that we get to be playing that challenge and learning from other teams.
Individually, is there something you want to see yourself accomplish, or is it more just focusing on trying to help the team as best as you can?
Yeah, I don't think I have a set individual goal other than just pushing myself to the most that I can do. I think seizing opportunities is going to be a big thing that I want to try and accomplish this season, whether the opportunity is to feed one of my teammates and set them up for success and for another goal, or to work on my dodging and my shooting and set myself up for success. I think a individual success is a team success. And I think that a lot of my teammates are really good at all of my teammates are really good at feeding others into opportunities. And I think we work really compatibly together, which is great for us.
So let's transition now and talk about the beginning of your career and sort of work all the way up to where you are today. So you're from Walpole, Massachusetts, the home of Chris Wagner, former Bruin. But talk about growing up there and how did you start playing lacrosse?
Um, if I'm remembering correctly, I think I was in fourth grade and my mom just threw me into my club lacrosse program, just random day of the week, just got tossed into a practice and was like, okay, I'm playing lacrosse now. And after that one practice, I was like, okay, I'll go back for another one. And then I kept going back. And then I started in our youth league and I worked my way up all the way through eighth grade. I was on the seventh and eighth grade team. So I got to do it with a bunch of my friends. And I think I forced a lot of my friends to do it because not everyone was into it at the time. But I was like, what if we all did this together? And then they were like, okay. And then, yeah, I got a lot of the girls to get in there with me. And it just made such a great environment playing with my friends. And we definitely had a lot of good coaches. A lot of them were my friends' parents, which was a really good aspect to it too, which was super fun. And yeah, just did that from fourth grade up to eighth through Walpole.
And growing up, did you have like a favorite lacrosse player or team that you like to watch?
Um, I never really watched college lacrosse until I got to high school, but I would probably say my sister, Celia, I watched her all throughout high school and she was just kind of who I love to watch. I mean, she obviously was a great player and her high school team had really big success, which was so fun to watch. And I think when she got to college, I went to her game and I was like, this is a whole different game. This is so much more skilled, so much more fast paced, and it's so much more entertaining to watch. And that really watching her do that and how much she loved to do it and how much she loved to play and be a part of that team was sort of a big inspiration to me because it was my sister and she was so honest about the process and everything with me that it really made me fall in love with the sport to watch her play.
Yeah, you answered my next question, but you do have an older sister, Celia, that played for Georgetown. I guess the one question I want to ask you based off your answer was, does she watch any of your games now, and does she give you feedback, or is she more just trying to be kind of just like a friend sort of and support you as much as she can?
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. I think the player in her requires her to give me some pointers and feedback. And I know as I was growing up, she was always helping me on things that I could improve on. She would always come to my high school games. She would always give me pointers. I knew I was stuck throwing sidearm for years, and she fixed that right out of me. But yeah, she comes to my games, or if she's not available, she'll watch them, and she'll send me good luck texts before I go into a game and give me some pointers and feedback when I get out of it. And she's really great and super supportive in it.
Now, before college, you played for Notre Dame Academy. So talk about your time with that school and what's like your favorite memory from your prep school lacrosse days when you look back on that now.
I would have to say my favorite memory was last year when we won the state championship. I think that's probably my favorite memory out of high school entirely. I have a love like no other for that team. I think we were a group of girls that were so just on the same page about everything. Everyone was friends. When we were on the field, we could read each other's minds. We played great together, and the chemistry was just amazing. I think that's where I learned what a team really is. And I think that it just made me understand the value of playing with people that are open minded, playing with people that are going to set you up for success, and playing with people that are always looking to put the team above themselves. And they're some of my favorite people in the world. They made a great high school experience for me. And I never would have imagined that I would have won a state championship 2 years in a row. And they helped me get there. And I think that I'm always forever grateful for them. And I can't wait to see them do it again this year.
And how do you think your experiences in club and high school lacrosse help prepare you for college lacrosse with BU when you're looking back on it right now as a player on the team?
Yeah, I think for club, it was definitely a little more fast paced than town or high school lacrosse, just because you have girls that are trying to compete for those high level spots on college teams. So definitely the competitiveness was super up there. And I think that that really was a reality check for me when people started to get into recruiting and things like that. And I was like, I need to be up there with them. And it motivated me to get up there and have that aspiration and have those goals and have that motivation, which was super great. And I know my coaches, my high school coach was also my club coach, Meredith Frank. She just had this competitive mindset that I always, it was, it was just like it could rub off on you in a second because she would be like, we're in this is our game, whether we're up by 20 or we're down by whatever number. She was like, this is our game and we're going to go out there and win it no matter what is the score right now. And I think that she did a really great job with that. Also for high school, I think that we definitely played some teams that the score wasn't so even, whether we were up by 20 or something like that. I think that that gave me a really good mentality of like, the game's not over until the last whistle's blown. Anyone can come back from something like that, no matter what. So I think just an aspect of level headedness and being willing to understand that you're not always going to win a game or you're not always going to lose a game. And I just think that we had such a good level headedness in our play that we were able to understand that the game was never really over until it was completely over.
Now, you also played field hockey in high school, like I mentioned in the intro. I'm just curious, how did that sport help you in lacrosse, if it did? I'm assuming there's some similarities. You're playing on a field with a stick, but I don't know too much about field hockey, so you can tell me more about that than I could.
Yeah, field hockey, it was interesting because it's a little different because you never really have complete possession over the ball because obviously you're not holding it in like a net of a stick and it's almost like soccer. It's never completely in your hands. So I think that that sort of helped me with lacrosse because in field hockey you kind of just have to be able to read your teammates and be able to adjust because the ball could get stolen any second and anything like that. So I think it helped me in the sense of being on the same page as my teammates and sort of being able to read their body language or read the field better and without having to fully stop your feet, pick up your head and look around. It timeliness was just a big key that it really focuses on and just sort of getting on the same page with your teammates.
Now, talk about your recruiting process with Boston University and what made you want to go there versus other schools you might have looked at.
So my recruiting process was awfully short. I had been talking to a few other schools, and I know I went to a Northwestern camp, and that's where I met my coach at BU now, Lauren Morton. And I was like, I really like this coach, whatever. And then September 1st rolled around, and they had reached out to me, and my dad went to BU, and he was like, you have to go and see it. Like, we'll reach out, we'll schedule a visit. And I was like, okay, I've never seen this school. I live in Boston, and I'm like, I've never even seen this school. And it was my first visit and my first like really conversation that I had. And I got here and I was like, yeah, okay, I love it. Like, I don't even want to look anywhere else. So that's why I got cut short. I canceled everything else and I was like, I'm in. And then I committed and I've never been so happy about a decision.
Yeah, sometimes you just know. So, sometimes you gotta just go with that gut feeling. So I get that. I get that. And I'm curious because BU is such a good academic school as well. How have you learned to balance both lacrosse and academics at such a high level?
Yeah, they definitely set us up for success here. We have so many resources available to us. The professors are always so flexible. They know that athletes have different schedules or things that they have to work around. So, where they offer office hours, they also offer us to reach out and say, hey, I can't meet at this time. Can we meet at this time? And they'll be willing to Zoom call or meet in person or anything like that. And we also have our own study facilities here, separate from the library on campus, um, where they also provide tutors and like writing coaches and things like that, which is so incredibly helpful because if I'm struggling and I don't want to go to the professor and be like, please help me on your assignment. There's people that have already taken the classes and really they give you your time for that and they help you with your work and they adjust to you and without blatantly giving you the answers, they aid you into getting where you need to go, which is super helpful and such flexible hours in there too, which is so great.
Now, one more lacrosse question I want to ask you before we get to the non-lacrosse segment, which is which game are you looking forward to the most this season? Obviously, we know the big game is next week at the time of this episode being out, but I'm just curious if there's maybe a Loyola that might be a fun game to look forward to too, because they're a fun team to play.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say the BC game. I think it's not every day that you get to play the number one team in the country. And no matter how the score ends up, I'm just going to be grateful that I had that opportunity. And I think I've watched these girls play on TV, on national television, and I've watched them win a national championship. And I'm like, wow, it'd be so incredible just to see them do it in real life. And then on the other hand, I'm like, it'd be so incredible to try and challenge that. And I think we have a really good fire in us to go up there and be like, it's an even game. It's our game just as much as it is yours. And I think that we have a really good aspiration and motivation to just give it our all. And I think it's such a great opportunity to play such a team that's done such great things. And I think it's a really good opportunity for us. And I'm super excited to be able to do it.
And you could probably learn a lot from that game just because you get to see some of the tendencies of those players and you can maybe take away something from that despite the result or if, whether the result's good or bad.
Yeah, definitely. It's totally different watching someone play on TV than playing against them. So I think it'll be a really great opportunity to try everything that I can to stop them and then also focus on what they're doing. And the next practice the next day, I'm like, well, she tried that in the game. I'm going to go ahead and give it a shot in practice and then work on that until I have it down just as well as they did. And I think that should be really good for us.
So let's get on to the segment I like to call the non-lacrosse segment, where I ask you some non-lacrosse questions to get to know you a little bit more off the field. And obviously, I'll give you some of my responses too, so we can have a good conversation going. So first one is, if there was a movie made about your life, who would you want to play yourself?
This is this is a hard one. Um, I'm just boosting my own ego. Margot Robbie, make her me. I'll
Yeah,
go with that one.
she always does well in every movie she does. She's a great actress, so I could see that.
What would yours be?
I'm gonna boost my ego a little bit as well and say Ryan Reynolds. I think he's a great
Oh
actor,
yeah,
and I think it'll be cool to brag to people that he played me in a movie, so I'll go with him.
that's a good one.
Now, what's the most underrated holiday and what's the most overrated holiday?
Underrated Easter. Crazy take, but I love Easter brunch. If it's nice weather and it feels like spring, makes the day great. It's such a relaxing day. Go to church in the morning, go to brunch with your family. So nice. And I think it's so underrated. Plus, I have a little brother, so the Easter bunny still comes around, which I really like.
That's
And
good.
yeah, and then underrated Christmas, I think, which another crazy take, but I think all the joy lasts until Christmas Day, and then it's like then you just gotta wait another year for it.
Yeah, one of the worst feelings ever is I don't know if you host Christmas, but like when everything's done, like Christmas night, like 7 o'clock, and it's all over, it's one of the worst feelings ever because you just know like Christmas is basically done. And then like the 26th rolls around, and even though you have that day off, it's like just doesn't feel the same.
Doesn't feel the same. I agree.
For me, underrated is I would also say Easter, but I would say I also think Thanksgiving is underrated just because it sort of gets in between Halloween and Christmas, but I think itself is a good holiday with the food and all that stuff. And then overrated, I would go with New Year's Eve just because it's just you're waiting for a clock to turn midnight. I don't think there's really anything special to that holiday, in my opinion.
That's a good one. I wasn't even thinking New Year's Eve. Thanksgiving is true though. It's like sandwiched right between the middle, and the food doesn't get the appreciation that it should.
Yeah, someone said Thanksgiving food's overrated, which surprised me a lot. I've never heard that
That's
before.
crazy. That's a wild take.
Now, who has the best off the field style on the BU women's lacrosse team? I'm gonna go with you, Riley, for this answer because I've seen some of the photos that the social media team has posted. But obviously, shout out to former guest Elle Stevenson and Kendall Sims because they also have great style as well.
um, I definitely do not. That media team captures me at my worst, which is every time I see a tag on Instagram, I'm like, please don't be BU lacrosse. But for best style, I'd say Quinn Ferry. The other day, she said, Reilly, it's crazy you haven't rated my closet yet. I was like, Quinn, you're gonna regret asking that because she has the best style and she definitely wins that one.
Yeah, I forgot to give her a shout out too. She was also on the podcast. So yeah, shout out to her. She has great style as well. Now, what's the most interesting thing you've read or seen this week?
Oh gosh, I don't even know. Um, this is weird. I saw a dog wearing boots the other day, if that counts.
That's pretty cool. I don't think I've ever
I've
seen
never
that
seen that
before.
before. So yeah, that was the most interesting I've seen this week.
Yeah, for me, I'm taking this music class for one of my gen eds, and we learned about the history of like rock and roll and sort of how that got started with like bluegrass music, blues, R&B, all that kind of stuff. And it was just really interesting to see some of the early rock and roll pioneers and how it inspired like music to what it is today with like Elvis, Little Richard, Chuck Berry, all those type of guys. And their songs are pretty good too. Like there's one Fats Domino song that I've been listening to a lot lately because of that class. So I would go with that as the most interesting thing I've seen so far this week.
That's a way better answer than mine. That's really cool.
Yeah.
My family's big into music. My Celia, she is a singer and my dad plays the drums. So,
Oh, that's awesome. You should try to play an instrument and get a family band going. That would be fun.
I played the flute in middle school. So,
All right. All right. It could happen. It could happen. So I would focus on lacrosse in school now, but like
yeah.
after that's done, that's something that you can think about. So
Yeah.
now what is one item on your bucket list that you'd like to do one day?
This is so basic, but I want to skydive. I don't think I'll ever do it. I think if I got up into a plane, it'd be a waste of the money. I'd tell them to take me right back down. But I've always wanted to skydive. I've seen so many of my friends like posts from it and having done it. And I'm like, that's crazy. I would love to say I did that. That seems like such a thrill, but I would chicken out the second I get up there. So,
Outside of like for me, outside of like traveling, probably like I couldn't do skydiving. That's a little too scary for me, but probably like hot air balloon because it's a little bit slower, but you get to have that sort of similar experience and they look fun to be in, so I'd go with that.
that's a good one.
Now, who is your celebrity crush?
Um, I'm gonna say Theo James. A lot of people know him from White Lotus, but I go way back to Divergent. Um, yeah, I love him. So
Yeah. I don't know. I gotta think about it. Probably like Margot Robbie. I know that's kind of a basic answer for most guys, but like I don't know. She's a really good actress. So now last non-lacrosse question is if you could play any other sport at BU, what would you play?
put me on the hockey team. I would love to play on that team. I think I've said so many times before, I wish I played hockey at some point in my life, and all my friends are like, you get crushed, you get literally eaten. I'm like, okay, but imagine if I was good. And then
Yeah.
yeah, I would love to learn. I can skate, but I can't stop. So that's definitely a default in my play, but I would love to be on the hockey team and be good at it. So
Which team, the men's team or the women's team?
the women's team,
All right,
obviously.
all right. They have a big game coming up on Wednesday too.
Oh
So
yeah.
I would say the men's hockey team, sort of similar like you. It looks like a lot of fun, especially since they're one of the best teams in the country right now. And I think I've been to a lot of college hockey arenas, and I think Aganis is one of the best. So I would say that for me. I did want to ask you because I was at one of the games recently, and Macklin Celebrini is like one of the best college hockey players I've ever seen play. But how crazy is it that he's basically like a senior in high school dominating college hockey? Like, could you imagine doing what he's doing as a senior last year?
No, definitely not. I think I think he does a great job for how young he is. I mean, he's definitely got such a prominent role on that team, um, which is crazy because there are guys that are 22, 23
Yeah,
on that,
24, some of them.
24, some of them.
Yeah.
So definitely props to him for giving it his all and really putting in so much work to get there. It's definitely extremely impressive. And yeah, he's been doing great. So hopefully their season ends in a really great end.
Yeah, I think it'll be one of the Boston teams. Not going to say which one, but it will be one of them as they're both playing very well. So now getting back to some lacrosse questions now, what should be done to help grow women's lacrosse from your perspective?
Um, I just I think the coverage really is just a big part of it. I think um, just like social media is huge. I think that if you make a platform online and you get people to repost it, you get fans to repost it, you get athletes themselves to repost it, podcasts like this that really focus on who's playing and what they're doing, I think is really, it just shows people what they're missing out when they're not watching. And I just think open mindedness from other people. I mean, like you watch a football game, everybody loves football. If you give that amount of passion and attention as a fan to another team, you can get into anything, you can get inspired by anything. It's such a great sport, and I just think media coverage and promotion and opportunities to show the people that don't play, that are sports fans, that there's another game out there that can satisfy them just as much as any other game.
Now, do you have any advice you want to give to the younger lacrosse players who are listening to this on what it takes to be a college lacrosse player like yourself?
Yeah, I would say honestly, when it's hard, it's gonna, I don't know if I can say suck, it's gonna suck, but you have to go through the hard things to get somewhere great. And it's so much better when you're playing at such a high level. It's so much more fun. It's just a whole different experience. But everybody that gets there has to do their due diligence. They have to do the grind. They have to put in the extra work to get there. And it doesn't come easy. So I guess when you're ready to give up, just look at what you're working towards, rethink it, and get back to work is probably my advice.
Now, before we end this interview, Reilly, do you have any shout outs you want to give to your teammates, former teammates, family members, friends, and who should we have on the podcast next?
Um, Shout outs, I guess. Ellie Stevenson, I know you said she was on the podcast. I listened to hers. She came in the season so hot. She's just killing it out on the field, really showing everybody everything that she has and just laying it all out there. She's been absolutely on fire, and I think she's going to keep it up for the rest of the season, which would be so fun and so great to watch. So great for her. Good job, Ellie. Um, I don't know. I guess shout out to my family. They've been coming to all my games, which is so nice. I love to be able to see them when I can. I know I'm really close to home, but I still appreciate them coming to all the games and just being on the sidelines. I know it's really nice when I get to look to the side to see them. Um, and for someone you should have on next, my roommate, Izzy Amante. She, I think, would be such a great person to have on. I know ACL injuries are extremely prominent in this sport, and no one can walk you through a process and tell you a story of strength and empowerment other than Izzy. I mean, she's on her second ACL and she's just grinding to get back, and she's done so much to get here. And I think that she would have some amazing perspective on kids that have torn their ACLs and kids that are trying to work back to becoming a player again.
All right. Well, definitely got to reach out to her then and have her on the podcast very soon. But thank you so much, Reilly, for coming on. I really appreciate your time. I think you're an incredible player and an even better person. So it was great having you on, and I really enjoyed our conversation today. And I wish you and your team nothing but the best for the rest of the season. I know there's big things coming your guys' way, so it's gonna be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was such a great opportunity, and I can't wait to watch your upcoming videos.